The wisdom literature consists really of 5 books in the Bible, 3 of them in the Hebrew Bible, the books of Proverbs, Koheleth, and Job, and then 2 in the Apocrypha or deuterocanonical books, if you like, deuterocanonical meaning they're canonical in the Catholic Church, but not in the Protestant churches, by and large. These books, Ben Sira was written in Hebrew. It's the only apocryphal book that is actually cited by the rabbis. And then the Wisdom of Solomon, it's a very interesting book with which we will conclude, which was actually written in Greek and has a good sprinkling of Greek philosophy mixed in with it, which is quite exceptional in the whole corpus of the Old Testament. But tonight, for starters, what I want to do is talk about what is wisdom. Now, the wisdom books are actually so-called simply because they use the word wisdom a lot. Now, that doesn't quite amount to a literary theory for identifying a genre, but at the same time, I think it counts for something. Most scholars, in my lifetime at least, have thought that the wisdom literature is probably the most easily recognizable category in all of the Bible, or at least as recognizable as any other. And the reasons for it are this. If you look, first of all, at the books in the actual Hebrew Bible, these are the only books in the Bible that never talk about Israel. They never talk about what we might call a history of salvation. No, there is no revelation at Sinai. There is no haranguing by prophets. What you have is simply instructional literature. Now, this instructional literature, I'll describe it in a little bit more detail in a minute, but it's direct speech. It's either in the form of statements presented as factual statements. Now, whether they're factual or not might be another question, but at least that's how they're presented. And sometimes then as commands and prohibitions, or at least very strong advice. Because basically what this literature is advice. It is something, it doesn't have the same kind of moral urgency that you get in the prophets. You know, where the prophets are either blessing you or cursing you most of the time. Wisdom literature tends to be calm. It just states certain facts, makes deductions from them, and it's cast really as the advice that a father might give his son. That's kind of the overarching category for it. It does not claim to be divinely inspired. And it is, I won't say it's the only literature in the Old Testament that doesn't, but it's exceptional in the Old Testament in that regard. Now, all of that, I think, makes it quite a distinctive block of material. In spite of that, in the last, 5, 6, 7 years or so, there has been a little controversy in biblical scholarship, inspired by a number of scholars who have proclaimed an obituary for wisdom literature. Now, in the bibliography that I gave you there is a volume edited by a man named Will Kynes, and he also wrote a book, an obituary for wisdom literature, claiming, in effect, that there is no such thing. Now, in fairness to Kynes, he admits that you can group these books together, but he says you might as well group them with any other group. Now, this is kind of hard to fathom, really, because actually this literature looks quite distinctive. And what's going on there, I think, in large part, is a theological issue. Since the wisdom literature doesn't talk about special revelation, doesn't talk about Israel coming out of Egypt or of revelation on Mount Sinai, then it looks somewhat secular. Secular, I'm sure, isn't quite the right word for it, because there is no literature from the ancient world that doesn't assume God, doesn't assume some kind of divine guidance in things, but at the same time,